For his first 1 year in office, celebrated yesterday, President Bola Tinubu did not give a clear-cut speech or address to the entire nation of Nigeria. Rather, he spoke to a joint session of the National Assembly. His address to the joint session of the National Assembly is coming at a time when Nigerian citizens are saying that they are in dire need of renewed hope. A renewed hope address too, amid the economic hardships that have become the order of the day in the course of his first 1 year in office as President of Nigeria. More so, prior to his address, Chief Ajuri Ngelale, Special Advisor to the President, Media and Publicity, stated that in furtherance of his commitment to delivering good governance, President Bola Tinubu has embarked on the inauguration of strategic projects across the country. More transformative projects were inaugurated by President Tinubu's administration for the benefit of all Nigerians, Ajuri Ngelale says. Joining us now on this show as we review President Tinubu's address to the joint session of the National Assembly is Professor Kila, Director of Studies at the Center for Advanced and Professional and International Studies, CAPS, here in Lagos. Good morning, Professor Kila, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Well, Professor Kila, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Two things. 25 years of democracy.
Yes, good to be with you. Good.
Yes. 25 years of democracy since the return to civilian rule in 1999. 1 year of President Tinubu's administration. On May 29, 2023, President Tinubu chose to shock Nigerians. He says, subsidy is gone. Yesterday, May 29, he shocked Nigerians again. He said, national anthem is gone. Old national anthem is back. Well, people are wondering, maybe in 2025, is the name of Nigeria itself that will go, and we will have a new name. So these three basic issues, what do you think? 25 years, 1 year, and then things that are always going on May 29, including the Arise O compatriots that was dispatched yesterday.
No, I missed a bit of what you say. You are introducing the fact that it's been 25 years of uninterrupted democracy and a year into the Bola Tinubu administration.
Correct.
And that
yesterday, and that May 29 last year, the president said subsidy is gone. Yesterday, he said the national anthem, Arise O compatriots, is gone. And many Nigerians are saying, maybe next year, May 29, maybe the name of Nigeria will go. We will have a new name. So what do you think of this phenomenon of saying, national anthem is the biggest problem? And the president, Senate president, defines it as a most important contribution to governance by President Tinubu. Those three issues.
Well, I think the statement of the Senate president says more about him than the rest of us. That we have to be very careful of how we speak with people in the institution. By defining that as a very important achievement or step is a shallow statement to make. And it does not show connection with reality. So I suspect the Senate president is living in a world that is very disconnected with the world in which millions of Nigerians are living. We need to guide our utterances, and I think of all people, the Senate president is somebody that needs to be taken to a classroom to be shown what he needs to say and not to say anymore. He has this habit of saying the rather wrong things, and it's unfortunate because he seems a jolly good fellow. Maybe he's too much of a jolly good fellow for that position. He needs to sharpen himself. The change of the national anthem came as a surprise. We didn't see that coming. The swiftness with which it was adopted and executed is a new set, is a new standard that we need to aspire to for when we want to deal with pressing issues in the country. I think we need to look at it that way. I mean, it's difficult to understand, the profound reason that led to that change. There's some things that is missing on those who purported that change. And it's also an index of the disconnect between Nigerians, because at the moment on the streets of Nigeria, when you say Nigeria we healthy, you know, it's a joke. You say it when things are tough, or when the Nigerian system has done something wrong to you. But, you know, those are things of aesthetics and sentiments. I am not one that is very moved by those symbolic things. I see the importance of them as a student of aesthetics. I can see the consequence of aesthetics and ethics and pathos and ethos in a society. There's a mix of all these things, which I understand very well. But I think Nigerians at the moment are more interested in their jobs, the price of food, and other things that will affect them. But that said, you know, we should appreciate 25 years of democracy. I do not think the president has done us very well by his own gift for these 25 years of democracy being this, because there's some contradictions in it. We've abolished, we've abandoned an anthem written by Nigerians for an anthem written by foreigners, which was adopted, the one written by Nigerians was adopted, you know, about a decade after we got independence, or 18 years, 78, it was adopted. And we've gone back to one that was written by, you know, by foreigners to us. In the language of today, people don't use tribe anymore. You know, they use ethnicity and nationalism. So there's something about it that is not, I won't say modern, because the whole of Nigerian history is a modern history. You know, it's not contemporary. It doesn't speak the language of the day. But then again, you know, I'm somebody who would like church services to be done the good old Orthodox way, rather than tell your neighbor to look at your neighbor, or that things I don't buy into. I still like the classical way of doing things. So it puts somebody like me in an embarrassing position. But I don't think it will matter very much. People will learn it. It's just a shame that just while some people are warming up to the new one, trying to learn it, I mean, older people, then you want them to change it. And this new one does not, the ones who grew up with a right comparators, we start to change the item again. Then we have to tell everybody, when we go to the World Cup and other African events, or when we go to international events, that we've changed our anthem. I predict that in one of these events, somebody's going to play their Rise of Compatriots instead of Nigeria we healthy, and they need to learn that. But, you know, these things, the whole point is that it's not as important as we're making it, and I suspect the timing. I'm not impressed by it.
Well, 1 year of Tinubu administration. What has he done right? What has he not done right?
Yes, 1 year. I noticed you used the neutral term 1 year. You didn't say celebrate, because I think it's families and friends of those who are elected that should be celebrating. It's a year to mark and to reflect of stewardship of an administration that has 4 quarters and has spent its first quarter so far. You see, unfortunately for politicians, you judge an administration by expectations and reality. The expectations for those who supported were very high, and I think the reality is matching it. Those in government say this is a time to sow the seed, and hopefully we shall soon get the fruit. But I think, honestly speaking, and speaking for most Nigerians, which is what we're here to do, we should notice that at the moment the situation in the country is like when you're hungry at home or at a restaurant and people tell you, we're working very hard in the kitchen to get the food ready, but you are hungry and the food is not here yet. I think the message to the president and the presidency is that the fruits of their labor are not showing yet. And perhaps they need to find a way to work faster and smarter to make sure we get the benefit of that fruit. Because at the moment, what people remember this administration for in the first 1 year is subsidy is gone and the price of subsidy went up. The price of food and other items went up, and the tariff for energy has gone up as well. I think at some point, the government is hoping that all these things will lead to somewhere better. So far, we're not somewhere better yet.
All right. 1 year on this administration, going back to the president's manifesto, his promises to Nigeria, his covenant or his commitment to Nigeria on becoming president. If you look at some of those promises, how well do you think he's delivered on them? He's talked about building a new Nigeria, especially for the youth, talked about job creation during his campaign season. He'd said he'd invest in the manufacturing sector, create and invent more of the goods and services that Nigeria requires, export and import less. He had promised for in the agricultural sector to continue assisting the farmers. I'd like you to, if possible, break down some of these promises he's made. And also even promises is made post inauguration, the student loans, the conditional cash transfer. I'd like you to please analyze some of these decisions and how well you think he's delivered on his promises.
Well, I think, one will assume that so far they're working on this thing. The student loan has been announced, but we have not really seen the loan. Nobody has taken it. The agricultural reform has been said, but we have not seen. The way to judge agricultural reform is if the prices of food go down and we're able to start exporting food. We haven't seen that. We have to assume, since we're not in the opposition, it's not our duty to suspect government. We have to assume that they're working on it. The problem is that we've not seen the result. As somebody who lives in Lagos, we Lagosians, we have seen the Third Mainland Bridge. That is a cogent thing that you see in your hand, that Third Mainland Bridge was started on this day and it's finished on this day, and that's good. That's the kind of thing we expect. The other ones have been announcements and intentions. We can only, sort of give in a goodwill gesture, say that it is work in progress. Unfortunately, the value of the naira went down against the dollar, and then it came up, then it went down again. So that is not a good place to be. But I think in terms of detailed or itemized improvements, it is still work in progress. Our hope as citizens and residents of Nigeria and businesses is that the second quarter is better than the first quarter. And that maybe all the things that has been said, from security to job creation, to agriculture, to infrastructure, to export, to a better Nigeria, to hope that it will come to fruition. One would have expected that with a modern government led by a city boy, things would have been faster. It would have been more digitalized and quicker to be done. I think, unfortunately, we're not seeing that. Let's hope that things will be better. I believe one of the first flaws of this government when it came to power is that it didn't seize the opportunity to start to go into parliament with the list of the ministers straight away. To have spent a bit of months, because it will have been easy now to also judge the ministers as 1 year in office, but they're not 1 year in office, so that would be unfair of them. I am patiently waiting for a few months to sit down and judge each of those ministers to say, what exactly have you brought to the table? What has allowed you to say that you've done a good 1 year? But it would have been good to judge them with the presidency. And I say this for the future, not to criticize the past. I hope the future president of Nigeria will understand that it is good for him to resume into office with his ministers as soon as possible, so that when we talk about a year of administration, we can talk a year of all the arms of government at work.
Okay. Good to see you again, Mr. Kila. 1 year after, like Dr. Batu was joking, probably we'll change the name of Nigeria at some point to the Raiders, or probably the flag. Maybe that's the one we'll go. But speaking of national anthem and symbolism, I get your drift, because Spain is part of the 4 countries in the world that don't even have an official lyric to their national anthem. And that economy is worth about 1.4 trillion GDP. So now, by lyrics to national anthem or real economic potential for the people. A part that a lot of us missed, I want to bring up yesterday. I see
you saw exactly what I was thinking about.
Yeah, it's not by lyrics to national anthem. It's real economic fecundity. Spain does not have official lyrics to national anthem. It's got 1.4 trillion GDP. And here we've dropped from 500 billion to about 253 billion now. I think I want to talk about something really important. President Tinubu yesterday again brought another supplementary budget. He said he's going to bring a supplementary budget. He didn't bring. So what he pretty much came to hint the National Assembly was, apart from the national anthem, was that he's going to bring another supplementary budget. One, he's not been able to account for how he spent this budget so far, the first 6 months. How are we going to get the money? Are we going to have to borrow the money? Because he's now saying he wants to bring another supplementary. And the last supplementary budget he brought before the end of last year, we remember how frivolous those budgets were. It was to buy cars for National Assembly members and do all sorts of shenanigans. I was talking about yachts and things like that. So when is he going to give us a count of the one he spent so far for the first 6 months, and he's talking about another supplementary budget?
Well, I think, so two things. Number one, you're very right. And amazingly, when I was talking, I was thinking about Spain. I didn't mention it, but I think you read my thoughts very well. That was what I was thinking about. So it's a good thing you brought it up. The other side of this is this. So it is natural. The whole reason why Montesquieu, espoused or taught us about the theory of division of power, separation of power, and why the whole world espoused it, is because it is clear that left to their own device, executives, whether it's in countries, government, association, or corporate organizations, or community, executive would tend to abuse power. It's just the way life goes. You need some kind of saint in power that will not abuse it. I think the real question is more of a system question. The question is, what exactly are the arms of government that are supposed to be holding government to power doing? The question you're asking, I think, should be directed to the National Assembly that needs to be called out. And I link this immediately to the marking, actually, let me use the verb celebrating 25 years of democracy to say it is time we take our focus on other arms of government, starting from the legislative arms of government, to remind us that they should be holding account government and legislating, not doling out not washing machine, what is it, sewing machine, not doing constituency project, not saying that national anthem is a great achievement. They should be asking, this money that we signed for you to spend, where exactly have you spent it? When are we going to get the result? That's what they ought to be doing. So I think we, the people, led by the fourth realm, or at least our voices amplified by the fourth realm, should move now from the first quarter of a century of democracy that we're celebrating, to say the next step is to hold more organs of government accountable. Unfortunately, the attention on the executive has been so much, and it's a bad attention. It's a deferential attention that makes people in the House of Assembly also say a bit of nonsense, because everybody's trying to please the executive. And I think we need to diversify our power and let everybody fit their bill. Unfortunately, and I say this very sadly as somebody who loves the law, unfortunately, as we move on to say, let us improve our system, towards a better nation, towards a more perfect nation. After 25 years of focusing on executive, let us focus on legislature, and I say, unfortunately, and the judiciary as well. These people who do counter orders and do orders as if nothing existing in the world. I think the next bill we should push for after the national anthem, I hope the Senate President would like this bill as well, is to find a way to say that any judgment we take to court, the first thing a judge should look at is to see if this same matter is in any other court in Nigeria. That is a law that you can pass in less than 50 words, and I'm hoping with the alacrity with which they pass the national anthem, they should be able to do that. The accountability you ask for is something that common sense and decency will make the executive provide it, but duty will impose on the national assemblies and all other bodies to request it.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Kila. I'm sure nobody would argue with you that apart from putting the spotlight on the executive, we also have to look at the legislature and also look at the judiciary and other aspects of governance in terms of how they have fared, either in the last 25 years or in the last 1 year. Thank you very much for joining us.